Hey everyone, Coach Mike here, and welcome back to another episode of the Language of Leadership podcast. I'm joined today by Tia Graham. Tia, calling from Canada today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Doing super well. So excited to have you here. For those of you who don't know Tia already, she is a certified Chief Happiness Officer and the founder of Arrive at Happy. She's worked with dozens of global companies such as the Four Seasons, Hilton Hotels, the American Heart Association to drive engagement and drive happiness and bottom line results for the companies. Prior to arriving at Happy, Tia, you led sales and marketing teams in luxury hotels all across the world, brands like the W Hotels, the Westin, the London. You've been featured speaker at the annual World Happiness Summit, and you've been featured in publications like Forbes, CNN, Thrive Global, the Los Angeles Times, and Well and Good. We're super lucky to have you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me again.
Well, let's dive right in. Your journey to arrive at happy has been nothing short of inspiring, and now your happiness, even just talking pre-recording here, I can already tell is radiating through the camera and the microphone. Were you always this light, lively, and happy? Um, and can you share with us a little bit about your journey as to how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So, no one is always light and happy. I think that's actually a big misconception. Everyone, including happiness experts and researchers and people that are really interested in happiness, everyone has peaks and valleys, lightness and darkness. Um, And genetics does play a part. So, research shows it's not exact, of course, but approximately, let's say, 40 to 50% of our personality and how happy we are comes from our genetic history. And I say I definitely got a lot of my dad's happy genes. So, there's some kids, I have two children, so you can see, right, how kids are. Um, so, as a young child, yes, definitely. I think I lost a lot of that, or I was sort of searching. And I know we're going to talk more about this, but teenage years and sort of through my 20s, and I rediscovered that joyful inner child around age 24 or so, and I'm now 42. And so since then, I've really strived to choose happiness and to make choices that increase my happiness. But like everyone listening, you have good months and challenging months, good years, challenging years. So yeah. And in terms of the journey, I grew up in northern Canada in a little ski area, middle of nowhere. My parents are both ski bums, and went I don't know, there's so much, I won't go to all, but anyway, I ended up, I think we're going to talk about this part too, but I was quite lost and uninspired after high school. Was partying a lot and really just focused on having fun. That was like my main priority, not career or anything. And then after several years of that, I found some purpose and went into the hospitality and travel industry, which I loved. I joke and say I was a very happy workaholic, and got to work and travel into all these different places. Um, and I started Arrive at Happy 5 years ago, going through a period of unhappiness, trying to juggle career and two little kids and marriage and everything else. Um, so that's, and there's a lot more to that, but that's sort of how I got to why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Thank you for sharing that. And I do know we are going to dive a little bit deeper now. And you write quite extensively about this journey in your book, Be a Happy
Mhm.
Leader. For those teenagers or adolescents who might be listening to the call, can or the show, excuse me, can you share with us a little bit more about that time as a teenager and maybe in your early 20s? I know you write about in the book things weren't always perfect. You ended up
Mhm.
withdrawing from university after one semester and pursuing a different
Mhm.
sort of journey. So
Mhm.
maybe just share with us a little bit more about that and how the dots didn't quite connect for you insofar as it's going to
Yeah.
tee up your move to Hawaii when things really start to get awesome.
Things start getting better. Yeah, with the Hawaii move for sure. Yes. So when I reflect back on teenage years, had friends. I enjoyed school. Spent a lot of time with friends and family. But really, I was thinking about different career paths, but I wasn't hyper focused at all. I was thinking, oh, I could do this, or maybe this, or definitely did not have laser focus. And even though I had lots of career conversations with different people, nothing was super strong. And yet the expectation of my family was after high school you go to university, and so that's the path, of course. And I signed up, for university and took, really it was like general classes, and started going, but wasn't really present, wasn't really excited, wasn't, I don't know, passionate. I was going, I was doing it, but my soul, yeah, I just wasn't excited. That's the best word to describe it. And my friends and I loved to have fun. We would go out dancing all the time. We were, 18 and just having a lot of fun. And English was always my favorite subject. And I actually slept through, I write about this in the book, I slept through my English exam and I had like an A plus in the class. Because I missed the exam, I got a D. I had never gotten anything less than a B in my life. And it was a wake up call. And I was like, whoa, what am I doing with this? Is horrible. Felt so embarrassed and ashamed. And I ended up dropping out of university, which my parents were not happy about. But I knew, I felt like I was wasting time and money by going. And for several years, I waitressed, I worked in restaurants and had a lot of fun with friends, but continued to feel I wasn't on a journey, if that makes sense. I was doing things, but there wasn't direction. Excuse me, dry throat. And yeah, and then thankfully had a few experiences, travel experiences and work experiences. I traveled to Mexico and through Costa Rica, and then I worked as a children's camp counselor on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina one summer. And those three experiences ignited this interest and passion inside of me to want to go work in travel and hospitality. And that's when that was a big moment for me to realize, oh, this is an industry I want to work in. This is an industry that I want to have a career in. And
So it sounds as though the classic, or the quintessential path of high school, university, graduate school, become lawyer, doctor, teacher, banker, consultant, graphic designer, that step-by-step path wasn't really what you were looking for, whether you knew it or not. But then you found this amazing transition into the world of hospitality through your own personal experiences traveling.
yeah,
You
yeah,
then
traveling and
decide,
then, yeah, internships. Yes. And as you were saying that, and I know a lot of people listening, they might be getting messages and suggestions and expectations from parents on doctor, lawyer, management consultant, go venture capital, whatever. My parents didn't have those, that expectation of become a doctor, become a lawyer. And again, I said my parents worked in the ski industry, so it was quite free. There wasn't a lot of pressure. And in hindsight, maybe I could have used a little more pressure, but you know what? I'm glad I ended up where I did. Um, so yeah, I think tuning into what you're interested in and what excites you about the world, which is what happened to me with travel and hotels. And then I, had a really successful career in that industry. So I think that's a lesson that I probably could have learned early on. I ended up learning it a bit later, but it ended up working out.
but we fast forward just a few years. you're in your mid 20s, you're managing a team of people, you're running sales and marketing at a very prestigious resort in Hawaii.
Yeah.
What happened from the quote unquote wilderness years to you totally kicking butt?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to the University of Hawaii because I was going to University of Calgary. I started going back to school. Got to University of Hawaii and was filled like I mean, filled is I don't a way bigger word than filled. Just consumed with gratitude that I was living in these Hawaiian islands at the University of Hawaii studying tourism. And that appreciation for where I was and what I could study ignited this feeling of like I'm going to excel. I'm going to give this everything I have, right? Intellectually, just all of it. And I became president of the student association. I mean, I really, really was like, I'm all into this. So I think the change was I could see this journey, I could see this future career, and I was surrounded by really successful people in the industry, and in all the hotel companies in the Hawaiian Islands, et cetera. And yeah, just felt super motivated. And then um, how I fast tracked so quickly and became a director of sales and marketing by 26 years old was I let everyone know I was really passionate and wanted to excel. And I also quickly connected with really, really influential mentors within the company. Like I was meeting with, when I was in university, I was meeting with the regional vice president that was over the 15 hotels, one of my mentors. So these people would come in to speak at our university, and I was like, oh, Keith Vieira. Keith Vieira is going to be my new best friend. And I, made that happen. So, yeah, that's how I progressed really quick once I got there.
So you're in this management role, leadership role. You have great mentors,
Mhm.
as you write about as well. Even then, there were still some great learning experiences when you were
Yes.
managing a team, leading the team. Could you
Yes.
just share for a moment about the importance of feedback and the importance of having a manager, leader, mentor help you course correct to become better at what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, sudden, it felt very sudden, was leading this team at, huge budget and really didn't know what I was doing. I mean, to be honest, I didn't. Like it was a lot of, I don't know, what's the saying? Trial by fire, whatever. Anyway, yeah, definitely lots of mistakes. And um and it wasn't like I could hide from them. Like they were, it was definitely errors and mistakes as I was, for my first 2 years of leadership. And my general manager, this woman, Angela Vento, she would pull me into her office and say, okay, this just happened, or, it wouldn't be a surprise. This just happened. Here's the result here's the repercussions. And this is what you need to do differently next time. And I was very aware of how much I did not know. So there was no pride or feeling of like, what? Like, I was like, yes, tell me, help me, And so I think that, yeah, just vulnerability and being, feeling like I was still a student, even though I was a boss of people, I still had that, student mindset of I have so much to learn. Let me know. Tell me everything I'm doing wrong because I want to fix it. So I think having that attitude is really, really important when you're starting out.
It seems like being open and being aware to know what you don't know is also a pretty key ingredient to happiness, right? If you think you know everything, or you think you're the bee's knees, or you think you're the best in the world at everything, I have a sneaking suspicion, based on what you've shared already in the book, that happiness isn't necessarily going to be your immediate destination. Can
Yeah.
you now share a little bit as to how you got more into learning about happiness and some of the myths and misconceptions that people have
Yeah.
about happiness?
Yes. So, as I mentioned, really once I got to Hawaii and then moving forward in different places that I've lived, um, I've always been conscious that I want to choose happiness for myself. And I've been very aware of what increases my happiness and decreases it. I've been very aware that I feel differently when I exercise. I've been very in tune with when I don't get enough sleep. I'm really not a happy human. Traveling has always made me happy. Being around really, really negative people has always affected me a lot. Like, okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time with super negative people. So that's always been sort of part of my journey. When I was really unhappy going back to work after having my second daughter, I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And I thought, okay, I'm really interested in happiness. I'm struggling with it right now. I'm pretty sure other people are struggling with it too. So let me just start. What information is out there on human happiness? And I kid you not, I literally Googled what makes people happy? Question mark. And the science of happiness, positive psychology, were all, the website, like it was Penn and it was Berkeley and it was, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar at Harvard. And I remember thinking, wait, there's a science of happiness? Never heard of it before. And so, well, ever since then, that was like 5.5 years ago, I have like I'm on this journey to learn as much and then share it about the science of happiness as possible. And in terms of myths and misconceptions, there is this very, very strong message. It's cultural, it comes at us from advertising, parents, you name it. Of course, social media now. There's a very strong message that success and material possessions and the home, the car, the bag, the whatever, all of it is going to make you happier. Get this title, you'll be happy. Get this corner office, you'll be happier. Get this, huge bone, whatever, all of it. And the research shows that yes, wealthy people are happier than poor people. I don't think that's a shock to anyone listening, but the degree is not that big. And there are also tons of wealthy, successful people that are miserable. So that's a huge myth and misconception is more success, more money equals happiness. And what the research shows is that the equation actually is the opposite, that happy people are more successful. There was just a huge study done with close to 1 million people, and it showed that it was done over 5 years, and it showed that people who are happier at work are 4 times more likely to get a promotion or have accolade, et cetera. So my message is focus on your happiness always, and the success will come all areas of life. Another myth and misconception is that so much of our happiness comes from our life circumstances, right? So you're living in Shanghai. Unfortunately, you are in lockdown, not able to leave your apartment, right? These are your life circumstances. Someone else listening could be, maybe living someplace that's more rural, and they're, in high school, they have a huge family. Could be life circumstances. Could be that your parents are going through a divorce right now. These are all the life circumstances. And our life circumstances do play a part, but the research shows that it's a lot less than what we think. So we think like, oh, all of these things are happening around me, to me. And it's actually our choices. We make thousands of choices every day. And so a huge impact on our happiness are the choices that we make, which is fantastic because it means there's so much within our control.
So those choices that we make, and I think you're right. If I remember correctly, 35,000 choices a day. Did I remember that right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's, yes, around there. A
Something. I
lot of a
mean,
lot of choices.
an insane amount of choices, more than we can
Yeah.
even comprehend. Um,
Yes.
when we think of maximizing happiness, and by the way, maybe we can come back to this. Is that even the goal to maximize happiness? But
Hmm.
for a moment, let's posit that
Yeah.
maximizing happiness is something to search for. Um, what are some of those choices that we can make on a daily basis? I know personally, having spoken with friends, family, and people who I admire, some people say I write a gratitude journal. Other people are saying I get my sleep and exercise, like you remarked on. Other people
Mhm,
are saying for me, it's all about spending time with loved ones. For others, it's all about spending an hour or two a day alone by myself.
mhm,
If
mhm.
I'm a teenage student, and frankly life can be stressful, what are some of those choices that I can make on a regular basis that would help me to pursue happiness?
Yes, such a great question. So I'm gonna answer this in two parts. The first part is when you're thinking about your own happiness, think about four parts, and this is from the science of happiness. So the first is feeling like your life is, you're satisfied with it and you're content, right? That's part of it. The way you would look at your life, I feel content, I feel satisfied. The second part is having more pleasant, feel good emotions than the painful ones. So, having more joy and excitement than anger and fear. Not that you don't have anger and fear, but there's a ratio. If you want more of those, okay, that's a happy life. Third part is feel like you have meaning, that you have purpose in your life. And then the fourth is on having experiences, novel, just different experiences as a human being. So just think about those four because those all contribute to our happiness. In terms of choices, there are so many. So let me give five. So absolutely having a gratitude practice. There's so much research on the power of gratitude. So simple practices 3 times a week. Write down what you're grateful for before you go to bed or right when you wake up. And you will build that neural pathway and you will start having more gratitude in your life. Um, the number one predictor of happiness, you touched on it, is human connection. So, spending time with people you care about and who care about you. And technology has, well, we're doing it right now. We're having human connection with technology. So, there's lots of good. But technology also can take us away from this or make us not present. So, when you're with your friends and family, try not to also be on, I forget the big social media. Is it WeChat? In China? Yeah. Right. Try not to be with your friends and then also stay like just try and be, connecting with your friends however you can. So increasing human connection. A third one, and I know this is hard for a lot of people listening right now, but as much time in nature, and I know you're in a huge city, can be a park, but increasing time in nature and really being present in nature is another great one. Fourth one is, and I know a lot of people listening are doing a lot of this, but is actually learning and growing, whether it be about yourself or what you're interested in. So if you're kind of sick of all the subjects that you're having to take right now, learn something that you really want to learn because learning is fantastic. And then one more is having, I'm going to call it a spiritual practice. So this is whatever it means to you, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whether it's with your religious community. Um, but those are five. I could probably name 100 more, but those are five choices. And exercise, I'm going to give a few more. You have to exercise. If you don't exercise, it's like taking a depressant pill. Research has shown you have to sleep at least 7 hours a night. You have to eat healthy food. If you don't eat healthy food, it's going to make you unhappy. And one last one is you have to laugh. You have to have humor. So I don't know. I love stand-up comedians on Netflix as an example, just because they make me laugh out loud a lot. So you have to have humor. Those are some choices.
I love that. Thank you, Tia. That's super tactical and practical. And as I listen to some of those that you shared, I can't help but sometimes try to connect dots, and maybe the dots don't deserve to be connected, but
Yeah.
hearing you talk about those specific things from an expert on happiness such as yourself, right? There's meditation or some type of spiritual practice, spending time with other people, spending time in nature, learning from some outside source besides yourself, being
Yeah.
grateful, which is I
Yeah.
think being looking outward, it seems as though a theme or a pattern is looking outside of yourself. Am I
Mm.
connecting dots that don't need to be connected, or am I on the right track here?
No, no. So, yeah, and I gave, yeah, those are all, I mean, we're all interconnected, right? All of us, 7 billion. And so the Dalai Lama says that so much of our human suffering is because we think too much about ourselves. So, no, I think you are connecting dots. And two other huge ones are when you help other people, or you help animals, or you help the planet, you are going to be happier. So, help, give in whatever way you can. One internal one, because those are external, one internal choice that really is beneficial to your happiness is when you are feeling pain, when you are feeling, let's say, anxious. I know there's so much anxiety, right? When you're feeling really anxious and you're worrying about the future, a healthy choice is to talk to someone about what you're feeling or to journal about what you're going through, or both. You don't want to hold it in and not communicate verbally or by writing. So that would be one example of it's on the journaling piece. It actually is, yeah, for yourself.
And I'd love to just dive deeper into that, because I think that's such an important realization. Growing up in my household, um, I think if my dad or mom was sitting next to me, they would agree that expressing emotions openly wasn't exactly what we did at the dinner table.
No, not my family, never.
And I know in some high context cultures, in particular in Asia, in particular, expressing negative emotions, expressing challenge and anxiety openly, even to family, friends, and close ones. I won't say that it's not encouraged, because I don't think that's fair. However, it is less historically and culturally accepted to basically
Right.
express pain, challenge. It's more of a grin and bear it type of attitude. And please forgive
Absolutely.
me, because I am painting with broad brushstrokes, and I understand that exceptions make the rule. If we are in an environment where the world around us is not exactly encouraging this type of expression, what
Hmm.
are the recommendations that you might have then?
Hmm. Yes. And I agree. I don't think we ever talked about emotions or feelings in my family ever. I saw a lot, right? I saw anger. You saw it was happening, but the words were never put. So, my first piece of advice is the more emotions and feelings that you can put words to, the better. So it's called emotional granularity. And there are, oh God, there's probably 150, maybe more. There's probably 100, of pleasant, feel good, and I'm going to say don't call them negative emotions, call them painful or unpleasant, because when you say negative, we think that they're bad or bad for us, and they're not. They're just part of the human experience. So the more that you can say I am, for example, like a huge one that Adam Grant is talking about, it's like languishing. You're not thriving, you're not depressed, you're kind of somewhere in the middle. You're just like languishing, right? So the more words you can put to those, and I would say you could do this with writing, right? Like, what am I feeling? And just write down as many as you can. What is going on? And then if there truly is no one in your community, friends or family that you could talk to, then absolutely I recommend writing. And people say, well, Tia, what do I write about? Like, journal for 20 minutes. What do you write about? Write about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and act as if, write as if no one on earth will ever read it or discover it. It is just for you. And so be super open and vulnerable. And if another resource or choice, I would say, is fortunately, there are a lot of fantastic telehealth options available. So, whether it be a life coach or a therapist or a counselor, or, is you can find people online that, are, and it's great, this is more reasonable now, is if you really are struggling emotionally, I highly recommend find someone online that, that maybe isn't a friend and family that you can talk to, because that's the most powerful, proven way to help you move through it and become stronger because of it.
And if I do reach out to a mental health professional or family and friend who's great at listening,
Yeah.
um, and I don't have a great experience the first time,
Yeah.
or I try to journal but like nothing really comes out, is that natural, or like am I going to get better at this over time, or is that just not for me?
Such a good question. Yeah, it's like anything at the beginning, it's going to be uncomfortable. And talking about and facing our painful emotions is challenging. It's not easy. There's a reason people are for years and generations have not gone there, because it's not easy. Even for me, when and I'll share my most painful emotions right now come from parenting. It's one of the most beautiful things, one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my entire life. And it's difficult for me. So, because, and I think for most of us, we haven't grown up. It's not like reading books where you're like, oh yeah, I've read books my whole life. I can read books, right? Easy. It's like reps. But the more that you do it, the more comfortable you will be for sure. And no, it's not that there's a human out there that's like, no, I don't need to talk about or face the painful emotions. This is for all human beings, cross cultures, cross all demographics, all ages, and and the more that you can look at and be real with the dark sides of your life, you actually will feel more joy and happiness. It's a huge part of it.
Well, so we've discussed a little bit about your work, your research on happiness, what we can do on a daily basis, whether it be practices or habits to develop, to zoom up a little bit to the general theme and general theory of happiness. I want to go
Mhm.
back to a moment or earlier in our discussion. Is the goal to be happy all the time? Is the goal to wake up and roll out of bed and just be like, "Oh, what a happy day. Are you happy? Am I happy? I'm so happy." Is it something that we should seek in punctuated moments? Is it somewhere in between?
Such a great question. So this goal is personal. I don't think that there's a exact, formula for all human beings, because we all are different. For me, and from all the research, and then the experience and everything that I've had, so happy for me is not an emotion, right? A happy life, I think it's zoom forward and you're 85, hopefully knock on wood, 93 years old, and you're looking back and you're going, yeah, that there was more pleasant than pain, right? So if you look at, and you could think about your month, you could think about your year, the goal is that you want to have more of the days where you are smiling and you're grateful and you're connected than not. But a happy life is also accepting that there are unhappy days. There are going to be really challenging months and maybe even years. Um, and remembering that being alive is actually the gift, right? That we're mortal and that you could die any single day. So to answer your question really succinctly, it's more happy than not, but also expecting and accepting that you're not happy all the time.
It seems like a almost a yeah. I couldn't. I can't help but think it. There's a little bit of stoicism in there, which is not stoic like maybe like my father or me sometimes, which is not displaying our emotions, that's stoic, but just the
Yeah.
idea of there will be one day when we are no longer here. What
Yeah.
is it that we're able to do now to maximize the, overall net happiness of our life, rather than in this moment seek hedonistic happiness or seek immediate
Yes.
gratification?
Yes. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. The hedonistic versus the yeah, the more meaning and purpose. And I think that realizing and remembering that our energy is contagious, just like a virus. Okay. So when you are happy, your friends and your family and the people that you're at school with or the people that you're working with, you lift them up. So there's also a part of this that is not selfish at all, and I can't help but think of it, as a parent, that when I am happy, my kids they benefit from it, right? So there's also a piece about this that it helps society.
So it's just a net positive, not only for ourselves, but for our family, friends, loved ones, colleagues, people that we work with or in our community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think if you were to ask any of the parents of people listening, right, they say they want their kids to be happy.
What This is a tricky one. What should I interpret as a teenager if I hear my mom and dad say, "I just want you to be happy"? Right? I go to my mom and my dad and I've had a tough day, and they come and they hug me and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, sweetie. I just want you to be happy." What
Mhm.
what should I think about that as a teenager? Does that mean that they want to help me achieve my dreams? Does that mean that they want me to get an A on my test? I mean, what does that mean?
Well, I guess it depends on the parents because there could be, like you said, I want you to get an A on all your tests. Like I definitely had that from my parents, the feeling of this is what we expect, right? Um, a way to interpret it, I think a healthy way to interpret it is we want you to be the best version of yourself. And it doesn't mean be joyful all the time, or it doesn't mean be perfect all the time. But as a parent, and my kids are only 5 and 7, so they're not quite teenagers yet, but you want your children to realize their potential, And so, and only, I don't think parents know all the answers, right? It's what's inside of you. So I think that's how that it should internalize. I think that's a healthy way to think about it is they want they want what's best for you and what you want,
Yeah, to take our
hopefully.
potential, to take what we can do in the world and achieve whatever we want to in that direction.
Yes, and for
Um,
everyone that does not mean lawyer, banker, doctor, right? There's so many paths. So yeah, be open to all of them.
and maybe we can end on this theme, Tia, just in the spirit of improving or being thoughtful about seeking to raise our conscientiousness about happiness and to take steps to reach our potential.
Mhm.
How do you work with companies or your clients? I know that right now there's such a crazy change in the world, right? Accelerated and maybe catalyzed by the COVID-19 pandemic, but generally there's a
Mhm.
lot of turnover and demotivation, and it's a challenging time for employees. And I know your expertise in the hotel and travel and tourism industry as well has been hit incredibly hard in the last 2 years. So would it be
Mhm.
possible just to give us a quick walkthrough as to what you do when you work with companies too?
Sure. Yeah. So I work with leadership groups within companies, and there's uh, two main outcomes. One is I motivate, inspire, and teach leaders how to be happier themselves so that they are more engaged and productive and motivated, um, and they're just better leaders themselves. So that's one area where a lot of companies, bring me into that work. And then the second area, and some companies bring me in to do both, is I inspire and teach leaders how to increase and create sustainable happiness for everyone working in the organization. And then the employees themselves are more loyal, the customers are happier, they're going to make more money. It's all the business outcomes that people running companies want. And a huge part of this also is connecting happiness to work, right? Showing that happiness is a big driver of business success. So, and I do that through talks, leadership programs, consulting. But a lot of it is what we've been talking about today, because leaders want to know all of this too.
Well, Tia, thank you so much for your time. Where can we go to find more about your work, and where can we go to keep in touch?
Yes. So all of my work and the information is on my website, arriveathappy.com. I have a weekly YouTube channel. So there's a new video every single week if people want to get continuous hits of this. So you could put Tia Graham, Arrive at Happy on YouTube, Arrive at Happy on Instagram, and then also LinkedIn if people are there.
Brilliant. We'll link to all of that down below to make sure that everybody can follow along. And thanks so much, Tia. Appreciate it, and hope we can
You,
have you back on the show at some point soon.
I would love it. Thank you for having me.